Welcome to Film Study, an all-American podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all of the things. And my guest co-host, Monda. You back. Let's get into it.
Let's get into how I end up being together on his.
I know. This was not even on purpose. I really invited you to do this one because we were talking about the Baker twins. There were supposed to be three of us, but it just didn't work out. But it just, it was meant for you and I to talk about, apparently.
Yes, and don't think we set this up because we knew it was going to be Spelivia angst, and y'all think I was just here to come for Spencer. No, this was
no. Right, and I think you thought that they were gonna pause on the Spelivia angst, and the Spelivia angst was gonna be like the next episode or something.
Yeah, see, it worked out in the way it should have. Yeah.
Yes. So, right off the bat, all right, let me see. I'm so excited about this episode that I wanted to get into review. But what did you think about the episode number one? What were your overall thoughts on it?
I'm gonna tell you, I really liked the episode overall. I really did. I love the different storylines. I love the fact that Coop wasn't there at all. I'm sorry, I love Coop, but I was happy that Coop had
me three.
I was like, yes, Jen, you could
come for me, Jen. Come for me, Jen. Coming for Jen at the same time.
But we literally, I was just so happy. I was like, yes, as soon as they said she was on the road. But I love the interactions of the parents with the teens / young adults, and I love seeing them all go through their multiple layers of things.
Right.
So it was really good. It was a good story, and the person who wrote it said it was like, "Hey, I'm the person who wrote it, but if you don't like it, I'm not the person who wrote it." And this I love the fact that writer put themselves out there like that, and they did an amazing job.
That's actually really funny. Now I gotta see who wrote this thing.
I can tell you because I responded to that person. You go ahead and tell me what you thought of it. I will find the person's name for you.
So I thought I too enjoyed the episode, and what I really like is I feel like they're finding their footing. They're really finding a footing and a groove, and with them being in college, and apparently there were a couple of surprises that we're about to get into. I was just like, okay, that's fun. I didn't know that. But yeah, I think they're finding their footing, and it didn't seem like an overwhelming amount of story, even though we're very used to this pace of All American sort of having juggling these different storylines and like several storylines at one time. It didn't feel like there were too many storylines to keep track of, for sure.
Yeah, it all fell in line with what the characters should be going through at this time. Very
right.
Much so. Very much so.
Adrian Dukes? Is it Adrian Dukes? It is Adrian Dukes! Ah, look at me knowing the writers!
Yes, because I quote tweeted it. And yeah, Adrian wrote if you're on Twitter today on timeline, Adrian was like, I wrote tonight's episode. Look for the certain credit, but if you don't like it, it is not associated with this account at all. It was just hilarious, and I had to laugh. Like, people were just laughing at the response to the tweet. But yes, Adrian, you did an amazing job. It was really good.
Adrian, you killed that.
Yep, it was really
good. Yes, and so let's get into the episode. Number one, Laura is tired. She's tired.
Wait, my mama Laura is not tired. She's T.I. Red. She's ready to give it to everybody. Including her own daughter. She's ready to give it to everybody.
Her daughter giving away her clothes, her, what was it? I love this little interaction when she was just like hi to her daughter, hi to her bonus daughter, and then Patience
rolls down with her jacket on. And Liv was like, oh, that's where that came from. And Patience was like, I'm sorry. She's like, you look good in it. And Patience was like, I know.
Yeah. it literally, and then she gave it to Patience. So she's just, it's like, how many kids do you have now, Laura?
That and she can't. She's like, I can't even get in my own bathroom. Who's using her master's bathroom? Like seriously, did Liv just take that over since she gave everything else to people? Like, hey, I'm gonna take over my
Apparently
own
so. Didn't
master
they?
bath.
What did Spencer say in season one? He said fifth room on the right or something. So they should have multiple bathrooms. They had a whole entire engagement party at their place. So they need to. They had a food truck in their backyard. They should have more than three bathrooms at this
More than
place.
three bathrooms, but for some reason, I believe Liv decided she's gonna take over her
Oh yeah.
mom's bathroom. So yes. So yeah.
Oh yeah. So Laura's tired, but it was a cute little scene in the beginning, and just throughout the show we see her. I think being very motherly, which I love. I love
Mhm.
I love it, even though it was getting on her nerves. She was looking after, she was looking after patients in the episode. Bringing patients tea, defending patients, being patients' lawyer.
Unknowingly, what she didn't even know what Patience was dealing with. She was like, "I'm her
Right.
lawyer." I literally said that.
Literally,
I literally was in that scene like, "Patience, you can't even afford her, and yet she's right here. Like, I'm gonna help you. You're in my house. You
Laura
under my roof. I got you."
Laura is a ride or die. And I love that. And I don't even think we've gotten to see Laura and Patience interact before. So
We haven't.
to get this goodness all in one episode was amazing, of Laura just being so protective over Patience, and bringing her tea. And that's just, the tea was something so special to me because, hint hint, my script, I just have I've envisioned Laura as this person who gives tea. So basically, before I get into sort of the predictions that came true, I'm just gonna say it now, audience. I haven't been completely honest. I am a part of the writers. I'm totally kidding, but
She's
it
totally
almost feels
kidding.
like that.
Let me tell you, because I at one point been accused of being part of the writers' team when we were on the YouTube front, and so for you to now be accused and some people believing you were part of it is hilarious. So no, neither of us are. We really are not. But we,
Neither of us are, but
we
it was really good to see that moment, and it was really good to see Laura being so protective of patients. And we know that, Laura was looking into the whole coup preach situation,
right,
and it's getting worse, as we knew it would, as
and
we knew
she
it would.
yeah, and she was very honest with patients. She said, "I'll let you know when it's that time to panic." And she's like, "It's that time to panic. Coop needs to come home.
Yeah, yeah,
Coop
because
needs to
Coop
come
is
home."
away with Dad, the dad that we haven't heard about since ages, since
Yeah,
season one.
it's time for her to come home. So it's I
So
knew that this storyline was gonna touch my mama Laura, and I literally said on Zoom to Jim before you came into our conversation that this storyline better not touch my mama Laura or Liv. I literally said it on Saturday night, and it did. It's touching her. I knew it was gonna do it. I knew it. That was one of my predictions, and it's happening. So yeah, yeah.
yeah, it did. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll get into that with predictions. But moving right along, the girl, the woman, the lady who Laura called her bonus baby,
Which is
Layla
true.
Keating,
Yes,
for Monica Records. It is true. She is
it
her
is
bonus
true.
child.
She is.
she's
I literally
she's lived
called.
there for, even before she lived there currently. Even though we haven't seen her at the Baker's house, she lived there, in season one as well.
And she's known Layla practically all her life. If we don't know when they injured each other's life, but practically all her life. I've
Right,
always
right.
called, even though me and Layla don't like each other sometimes. I always call Layla and Spencer Laura's bonus children, like
Yeah,
literally all the time. I've always claimed that to be true. So yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and so they, I do want to insert this uh, into the conversation. Maybe I'll wait. But yes. So moving on to Layla. Layla is just, trying to be the best producer that she can be, and she has this has this record with Sabine that she's been working on, and Sabine is a big new artist for Layla. And we see that Layla is sort of intimidated, so she tries to switch the sound, and then Sabine is just like, "Just be you, just be you." And Layla's like, "All right, bet, okay." And Sabine was just like, "What's that song you wrote for Patience about trust? I want that, I want that." And Layla was like, "All right, come on, then, tell me about your life."
Can we, before we go back, before we get to that point, can we talk about how either Sabine or the writers lied and said that some of those beats sounded like Timberland and Sweet's beats? Because as someone who loves hip hop and know both of their work, I was a little insulted. I'm just saying. I'm a
Really?
little insulted. Yes, I was. I was truly insulted. But it's okay. This is fictional world, so it was fiction. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, in this fictional world, people also think Coop is a dope rapper. So
Right. Yeah, right.
I'm
So,
just,
so
it is what it is.
it is what it is. I
Um,
accepted it. Just a little offended, but I accepted it. So yeah.
and so Sabine wanted a more
Word.
sort of soul
Yeah.
trap sound, and like a trip hop sound almost, and Layla wasn't coming with those beats, and sort of after some encouragement, after some conversations about Sabine's life, Layla figured out a sound that could work with Sabine, and it was really fun for me to watch that interaction because the more that I noticed that, the more that I watched that scene, really, it made it seem like, I think at first I thought this relationship was going to be Layla sort of trying to impress Sabine, and Sabine really not being like, you need to get it together. You need to be on your A game. Like, I thought that's the
Yeah.
route that it was going to go down at first. Uh, but really, Sabine is almost acting as a mentor to Layla, and I love that for her.
I actually like that too. I like the fact too that somebody was like, "What do you want?
Right.
Like, why are you really in this game? What is it about?" And Layla really like dissecting it. Like at first, it was about me trying to not be my father, but then she was
Yeah.
like, "I want the empire." I said, "Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead and take that crown then, if that's what you want." And I
Yeah.
like,
Go get
and
your
I
empire.
Yeah, go get your empire. But then I start thinking about the show Empire, and I'm like, at what sacrifices will she come along the way, right down the future line, as she seeks to get this empire? So it's like all the possibilities around that. But I really liked it. Yeah, I really
Right.
did.
Right. So that ended on a really good note. Something that I said that I wanted
And what
happened,
is
and we're getting Layla writing again, and I love that.
it? That was because you did say you wanted that because it was connected to the fact that her mom was a writer, and
Yeah,
you did say you wanted that, and you got what you wanted. You
I
got
got
what
what
you
I
wanted.
wanted. So I was really
I,
happy about that.
Can I tell you what I liked about also Lele scene? Is
Yeah.
her coming in when Billy and Laura were talking, and she
I
was
was
like,
just about to bring that up.
yeah. And she was so excited. She was so excited because Laura had already encouraged her. Mama Laura already encouraged her before she walked out the door, and she was had that self doubt going out the door, and to then come back and to find out like exactly like this is what it was, and this is and her wanting to share, and her never having that before because her dad was never there, and
Right.
for her to come back and there's parents sitting there that she can actually share with was like, wow, this is what this feels like, and to have someone there waiting.
Exactly. Exactly. And I completely agree. Which is why I didn't like that 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 Layla that Laura and Billy sort of shooed her away like that, because I was just like, come on,
Like, come on, this
let her
has
be excited.
it was
She
very
doesn't have
excited,
parents.
and this is the reason why she moved into the space. So I'm not gonna blame Laura and
Oh no,
Billy.
no, definitely not blaming.
I'm
There had
blaming
been
the
a full on
writers for not
conversation.
giving that connection to the reason why she moved into the baker's house. But they kind of
Right,
did it in
right.
a little bit. So yeah.
And the other thing is just like, I feel like Coop. There's been so many scenes where Coop or someone else has had that exact same moment and has been allowed to
Mm-hmm.
have that connection, and so it's just another instance of like, why can't she have nice things in terms of uh like parents or parental figures?
Why can't she have her moments? Goes back to our one podcast we talked about in the support
About
dynamic.
support.
Yep,
Yeah,
and we put Coop on the side of men because she got so much and
right.
everything, and Lay and Liv not so much of that
Yeah,
support. So yeah,
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 yeah.
falls along with
So
it.
that's interesting, and it might come back up, it might not, but yeah, that was a really interesting point. Um, yes, that was that storyline. Um, Going over to not Laura's bonus children, but someone that she also has to do some very strong caring for, her husband.
I
She
can't.
was just parenting everybody today. But on to Billy. Billy's really settling into his role as principal, and he decided to give Preach a job as a teacher. And Grace was not happy about that. And Grace, so it was the whole thing with him and Grace and Billy just really settling into the idea of being a principal and settling into the idea of like, hey, I really want this job, and then Grace sort of discouraging him and saying, don't get too comfortable. And so he talked that over with Laura and really decided, hey, I want to do this despite everything, despite my hopes and dreams to be a coach, maybe for college, or to be a coach in the NFL. And I recognize that Grace has called me selfish, which she did. Um, but I kind of want to pivot and I want this to be a career change. And so they together, with Laura encouraging his dreams, decided to move back into GW's house, being Crenshaw, so that Billy could really give his all to this idea of being a principal because he really enjoyed it. Everything except for the keys.
I I let me tell you what I find interesting about all this. Billy took Spencer advice in hiring Preach, who is a known felon and who's under investigation right now for a murder rap, to come in and tutor his students in high school. I'm all here for prison reform and all this other stuff. I'm here for that. But you taking Spencer advice as if Spencer was actually someone on the school board and who quote unquote has some kind of knowledge of what is qualified in hiring somebody to watch over these students and teach these students. Yes, granted, he did help Coop pass her GED and everything. But I was like, sir, I need you to do better in how you pick people because you got to justify that to the school board. You're gonna have to justify this to people who want to hire you, who want to hire you permanently, as to why this is gonna happen. I
Right.
like. Go ahead.
Oh, no, all I was going to say is I'm 1000% with you because I too am all for reform and all for reform, and I'll just leave it at that. However, Preach literally killed somebody a
Right.
few episodes ago. And
He's
it's
under
no secret that he was in a gang.
investigation.
And
Right.
so the fact that we're trying to act like Preach didn't do these things just recently
And he's
is
not
sort
under
of
investigation.
absurd. On top of the fact that none of them have qualifications.
Thank you very much. Because I was about to bring that up. Like Billy himself don't have qualifications to be a principal. Yeah, he's
Exactly.
fine. I call the fact that, and I just put it on my page, that the fact that Billy and Mama Laura was going to go and stay in Crenshaw because of his opportunity to be a principal. He has to stay in a district to do that. I called that, and I knew that was going to happen. I also put on Twitter like about a month ago, I think, or 3 weeks or whatever ago, is that the Billy storyline of him being a head coach moving on to being a principal. This is the actual storyline of Spencer Pasinger, real life uncle, who was his head coach, who became the athletic director and eventually the principal of Beverly Hills High School. So they actually are taking like his uncle's storyline and making it Billy's, which is interesting. So I like that in relation to the real life story to the fictional story. But yeah, Yeah.
But so even though I have all of those qualms with Billy, here's my issue with Grace.
Go ahead, tell us,
An
sis.
episode ago,
Mm-hmm.
she was all for Billy being the principal. Literally tricked this man into a job.
Literally said it tonight that she tricked him into this job. Yep.
Literally. Literally.
Words
And
out of her
so
mouth.
why is she acting like, oh, you better not get too comfortable? And they've already found a candidate and XYZ. Like, what?
And then why
If
are
you
you
didn't feel comfortable in what Billy was going to do, why did you suggest him in the first place?
and then why are you hiding said person's name like it's a mystery when he's supposed to
Because
be
it's her.
guilty?
Because it's her.
Oh, we both know it's her. We both know it's her. We both got that tea already. But we talking to Grace as if we don't know it's her. Miss Gracie, why you hiding it from him? Just let us know. Why you
Let
hiding?
us know why. And the other thing, the other thing is, again, why is she moving so shadily?
I
That's what
cannot.
I want to know. Can you explain that to me?
I really don't because next week we're gonna talk about predictions because that like that that little brief preview we had, I said, "Oh, you really moving shady, Miss Gracie." Because you even talking to your son out the side of your mouth, and he up there talking about in favor of Billy as the principal. So yeah, we'll talk about that in predictions. I have no clue why she's moving shady, other than the fact that she herself is lining up the possibility of her end up being the principal. But then I have a question: how you have the qualifications to be a principal? Where did this come
Facts.
from? Because last we heard you were working in the courthouse. Before that, you was also landscaping for the
Stop.
school. But
Stop
she
downplaying this
got her
woman's.
degree in
Stop
urban
downplaying this
planning.
woman's degree. She is a city planner. It's a
I know
city
she got a
planning
degree in
degree.
city planning and urban planning. I respect those people. I have people like that in
Do
my life.
y'all hear the
But she was
disrespect Grace Monda is giving Grace right now talking about some landscaping?
see what she did. She was making gardens and everything for that school, just like the end of last year. So that's
I
literally what
don't
she was doing. She
believe
was
you
trying
talking
to
about
find
some
ways in
landscape.
beautifying the school and giving people hope as to what other things you can do with the community and around that school. I completely understand that. But what does that give her the qualifications of her herself being a principal? I need to know because when they stack it up against both her and Billy, I want it all out. I want y'all to tell me how both of these people are qualified or not qualified for the job. Just let me know.
Same, same. And
I
we'll
swear
talk
to
about
God.
that when we get to
Yeah.
predictions.
Tell me who's best, who's not best. And I want to know why Gracie's moving funny. Besides her being the other candidate, but
I too,
yeah,
I too want to know because she was acting very brand new, acting very brand new,
which is weird.
oh, very strange. Um, so with that being said, uh, their actual child, actually, their actual children. How
Children,
could I forget
the Baker twins.
the Baker twins? You know what's funny though?
Yes,
It was their children together, but I don't feel like we got the typical Liv and Jordan interaction in this episode. And if I could say one piece was missing, and I think I just realized that just now, it was the hilarity of their interactions. It was very serious this time.
I thought we got that when he was like when he was explaining that Spencer was not on the death chart. So she's like, "I am a coach's daughter." He's like, "What?" And they were like interacting with each other. It was brief.
Yeah, and I just feel like there weren't as many. So let me say there weren't as many because
Right.
we got the thing with the ice cream,
We got the
and the
thing.
baker. What was it called? The baker surprise. The
Yes,
baker something.
something. And we got their interaction in the courtyard when she was like, "I am a coach's
Baker
daughter."
delight. The baker
Yeah,
delight.
Baker's delight, and we got the interaction with her being a coach's daughter and her knowing the difference
Right.
about
Right.
the
But
death
it
part.
just, and I was wondering, is that on purpose because they're in college now and they're more grown up, or or they were dealing with a serious situation. I don't know. I missed the.
The band.
I still missed, yeah, the banter
I think it's
basically.
I think it's a combination of them getting older and having like separate interests and trying to connect at the same time, and the fact that it was about a serious issue of finding Jen and that
Right.
could have been possibly life and death, because as it started, she was like, oh my gosh, this is like Beverly Hills High again, because he was all like, everybody's like, what's up with him and everything.
Yeah, I love that.
She was like, "Are you serious? Are we really going through this again?" She's like, "I can't help it." He's like, "I can't help it that I'm popular," and it's just like they have this. I said this on Twitter and everything. They're the duo. They came out of the womb together. It's go be always them together, no matter what. Even if they're on their separate paths, they will always find a way
Right.
of connection. More so Liv will boss Jordan around and be like, "This is what you about to do," type of thing. But yeah, yes,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. So that was one that I just wish their banter was a little bit more heightened. But I totally understand why it wasn't. But they were looking for Jen, who her parents were very worried. People were calling because she missed the first day of school, cut the first day of school. But as it turns out, she was just nervous because she might have been triggered, which is very understandable. Very understandable.
Yeah. And which was related to Liv's story, because Jordan was like, "This does this sound familiar?" And because of the fact that when we met Liv, she was coming fresh out of rehab and trying to find
Right.
her footing at Beverly Hills High. And so that's when Liv was like, "I'm here for you. You need to let me know when you're feeling these things, or you may feel triggered, because you don't have to walk this path alone." While
Exactly.
she herself was walking it along, because she didn't have that person who's already experienced it in such a way close to her age, right? And so she was
And we
able to
know her sponsor was trash.
crash. So we know that in a way Liv is like, I'm here for you. And we will see if in the future if being there for Jen will impact how she for her as a student, right? And as she's moving forward in her career and her college experience. But right now, Liv can manage that and balance that, and trying to balance that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that was a glad that that got all figured out and we got to see live live being a sponsor again, which was great.
I
Um
I
yeah,
also appreciate Jordan being invested in his sister's path and what she wanted to do, and not brush it off. Because I'm the first one to
to
always
get
say
on Jordan.
Jordan. Yep, I get on Jordan. I always say Jordan has not been there for Liv, and he always find a way to dodge the situation and find something happens to him that then the focus is taken away from him supporting Liv. But he literally dropped everything he needed to do to help his sister in that moment, and in his storyline was him continuously supporting his sister all
Yeah,
through her day. So I'm gonna give you kudos, Jordan Baker.
he
Because
deserves the kudos
yeah,
and like you said it was throughout the day. It wasn't just with Jen, but
yes,
obviously later on because
yes,
throughout the day she had a mini disagreement with Spencer.
yes. And so I want to give you kudos, Jordan Baker, because you were there for your sister.
Yeah, you
Now
killed
I
it.
know you go do something next week that's gonna make me go off on you, but right now I'm gonna
How do you know that? Have more faith in Jordan.
because you should read my tweets when I say, although I know I have to always support Jordan because he's a Baker twin, he always turns around the next 24 hours and do something that made me want to like say something to him. So, and it comes with the territory, because as him being my fictional baby brother, I know the boys irritate me sometimes, particularly him. So, it comes with the territory. I accepted it. I accept him.
That's
So,
that's actually hilarious because somebody said he loses his character development every 3 to 5 business days on Twitter last week.
he do though. He do. That's true.
Well, hey, that's who Jordan is. He's the nature of his character is very up and down.
Very up and down.
Um,
I would like for them to develop him out and give him
I
that
mean, I think
consistent.
he's been developed. I think that or at least I can see his growth from now. I think that he will always be a character that struggles and is very up and down, but I see the long game of how his character arc has been.
That too. And can I get some more of college Jordan, like football?
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
that
He has not
network,
had a storyline. He has
we have
not had
not.
his own storyline.
They act like, except for the time that he got into the little game, the scrimmage or whatever, and wanting to get in, and him telling Spencer, "Cheer up, it's gonna get better, and you're not always like gonna be number one." Jordan hasn't had his own, and he needs his own because he is
Yeah,
trying to be a walk on a D1 team. People, give him a storyline of what that actually looks like and in
exactly.
depth. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm advocating for Jordan a storyline on that front. So.
Same here. Same here. I too am advocating for that. Um, and with that being said, something that let me take it back to. I know I'm jumping around here, but let me take it back to Billy for a second,
Take
really quick. Preach was talking about Shakespeare and hip hop. Uh, it was a really cool thing when he was doing the little activity with the high school students of who said this lyric, was it a rapper or was it Shakespeare. That's actually something that Daniel had in high school, I think. So it
really?
was cool that NK used that. Yeah,
No, that's
or
cool.
that Adrian Dukes used that, because I know that's actually something that NK and Daniel connected on, is their love for Shakespeare.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a really small tidbit. But anyway, that was an aside. But
Wait,
getting to
if we're gonna still stay on the Billy storyline, which we'll go back into, because he ended up visiting the guys because there's so much because the ladies were there and they took away. Uh, Jordan stole his food. Remember, stole his
right.
cereal and everything. So that connection of also back to the guys and the guys of the house. But I digress. We can go on to the next part.
Oh yeah, I mean we're both aligned on this, because I was about to jump to the part to say there was a lot going on at the guy's place. This on the guy's end of the storyline, apart from Jordan, in this episode. We obviously mentioned there was a little disagreement between Spencer and Olivia, which we will get to. But beyond that, Spencer was just really struggling again, just struggling because he wasn't on the depth chart in the position that he wanted to be in. He did not make third string. Isaiah made third string, which again, shout out to Eve in my prediction from from last week.
And my
So that
prediction on Twitter.
and your prediction on Twitter. And so like yeah, it Isaiah jumped Spencer on the depth chart, and turns out that Isaiah actually originally had what was Spencer's scholarship, and Coach Boone is really the one that fought for Spencer to get this scholarship, and really wanted himself as a coach and Spencer to be a package deal. And that is how Spencer got the scholarship. So the actual coach of Golden Angeles football team, he recruited Isaiah, and Boone recruited Spencer. And I thought that was a very sort of realistic look. 'Cause, people fall in love with their recruits, and you could speak more to that than I can, Monda. But people
Oh,
fall in love with the people that they recruit.
they definitely do. Because this is my world. They fall in love with the recruits. What I found interesting though is typically when the head coach fall in love with a recruit, rarely do they allow a new assistant coach to then take a scholarship away from the person they fell in love with. But apparently he wanted Boom that bad that he
Right.
ended up giving that scholarship to Spencer rather than Isaiah. Because that is rare. And when I say rare, I mean it's really rare.
Extremely rare. Yeah.
Extremely rare. They would tell
Yeah.
Boom, kick rocks. See you later. It's not
Exactly.
happening. Um,
Bye bye.
yeah, so I was like, I was so shocked. You should have saw my mouth dropped open, like, say what now?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then
But
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, but as Spencer is sort of figuring this out, and again just being very frustrated that, in his own words, his football dreams are shattering. We have, and this is something that the writers have started to do, and I actually think it's a very organic way of keeping everybody connected, because it's as Spencer is going through this frustration with being a D1 athlete. you have the juxtaposition of people like JJ in talking about a Zentorship, which is him being into Zen meditation and really trying to find his center and sort of helping Asher with his coaching. And Asher's having this storyline where Coach Mr. Montez,
Mr.
Coach Montez's husband, who's also Coach Montez, he really wants to be a student coaching assistant
Right,
for Coach Montez, and he gives him this assignment that says and go look at this film and tell me what you identify. And Asher sort of goes through coming back and back and back again, and being wrong each time until Coach finally says, like, this is what it was, is that, you know, there was this quarterback who was playing injured, and he hid the injury from us. And it was just this really good dialogue about taking a different approach.
can I just say something though? When I was watching this scene, I was like, this, well, Asher particularly. I said, Asher, if you think that you are going to get this coaching opportunity, even though, JJ's pumping you up and everything, I said, this screams privilege and white privilege. Because I said, there's no way you could just walk on and end up being somebody's coach, student coach, without going through the different, how do I say this in a nice way? The different barriers, even if you do know his wife, the different barriers in order to get on the team. So I love that he was humbled to be like, you know what, you could be like somewhat as equivalent to a student manager. I need the laundry washed.
Yeah, no, and I
That was
appreciated
good.
that too. And I think I agree. I think that, like, him being bold, but I think that he knew at a certain degree that, like, this wasn't really going to be, um that he wasn't going to get a coaching gig. I think that he was surprised when he got that assignment in the first place
Right.
to identify the film. And so I wasn't, so it was good for me. I actually really enjoyed Asher's storyline because I was happy, so happy, to your point, that he, took it in stride. He got a little out of pocket there for a second, but then he gathered himself to very quickly take on being the towel boy.
Right.
Being the towel boy. And again, like I said, juxtaposing to this Spencer storyline, which is why we're talking about it now, but juxtaposing to the Spencer storyline about really being this sort of narrator almost talking about changing your approach.
Yeah. And it was so realistic. And I
Yeah,
appreciate that. It was very realistic to what truly happens in collegiate athletics when people are interested in going the route of of a coach and a student coach. So it's really, Asher's story is very realistic. So yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So speaking about changing approaches, again, Spencer is very used to, I think, hitting the weights and just going extra intense on the weights as a means for getting better. And he couldn't do that this time around. He couldn't just go in the weight room and say, we're going to have this montage of me in the weight rooms and everything's going to work itself out. So he had to try different things. He meditated with JJ. He, was again sort of very intentionally, like he's already been doing, but very intentional about, like, making sure his schedule is all right. And he came to this conclusion after talking to none other than who?
Asher. 1 second though. Help me. Cause he was like, Asher was like, hello, you're talking to the person who you stole his position
Finally!
and his new girlfriend
Sorry.
twice.
I
And then
felt that in my soul. I
I
felt the
felt it.
finally in
I was
my
like,
soul.
I said, finally, we gonna put this out in the open. And then they gonna have the audacity to be like, I don't have time for this
Oh,
conversation.
I was so mad.
I was so mad I wanted to reach into that screen. It's like, are you kidding me? This is what
I
people have
really
been
wanted to
waiting
hear what
for.
Spencer had to say to that man.
Yes,
Even though I don't even, and that's the thing, is, like, even though I'm not a big fan of Asher, even though I'm not a fan of Asher, period,
right.
right? I wanted to hear what Spencer had to say, because you got the sense, and it was the writers admitting, right, that they have never
Addressed it.
talked about this. That
Right.
Spencer has never said anything to Asher, not about football, which football is pretty understandable. Like
Right.
the game is the game, okay? You lose
You
your
lose
spot,
your
you
spot.
lose your spot. That's one
Right.
thing. Even though it was very, whatever, but like you lose your spot, you lose your spot. But in terms of the two girlfriends,
Right. And the fact of the matter is that we have been waiting since
yeah,
Vegas.
since before.
Before though, but really Vegas to have this conversation between Asher and Spencer. And for you all to be like, not now. No, we don't need to have that conversation right now.
No,
I
I
was like, are
know.
you kidding me? Like I have never in my entire life wanted to knock two fictional characters upside their heads. Like, are you
But
serious?
and the funny thing is, I say that, and I do understand that point from Asher though, because he's just like, I'm not trying to hear this right now.
I
I'm
got other
just
things
trying to
to
study
do.
this film, get on this team as a coach.
But I need them to revisit that storyline. I really do.
No,
I
I know.
really do.
But I love that they brought it up, and I
Yes.
love that, in the way that they did. Spencer was very obviously upset. He this man loves to throw things. He was throwing his cell phone. He was
Oh,
slamming doors
oh,
and doing everything else. And so the fact that Asher said, "Oh, you finna talk about it, or you just gonna keep slamming stuff?" And that's when he mentioned Liv being in a fight with Liv, which let's get on to that storyline. Um, Again, obviously, eventually he figured it out after meditation and changing his approach after talking to Asher. But again, what led him to even needing to think about changing his approach in the first place, to have that conversation with Asher, is that he and Liv got into a disagreement for the first time
ever. Because they
ever.
have never argued as
They
friends.
have never, and I'm not counting 309 as an
Yeah,
argument.
yeah, that we're not counting that at all because that was more emotional about her process and her development around her substance abuse. No, they have never gotten in an argument ever. This is their first argument. And it started because she decided to call him when Jim went missing, and he was already in his feelings, which he had every right to be, about what was happening about with him being in the death charts and Isaiah taking over, and he and
Right.
his football world crumbling around him. But when I tell you, Lexi,
But I say you got one more time to raise your voice and Liv.
not even before raising your voice, he hung up on her. When he hung up on her before she recruited Jordan, I was ready to step through a TV screen.
I mean, yes, but also when he raised his voice that second phone call.
Oh, that second phone call was like when I said, remember how I had threatened he had one time to put a hair out of place? That was a hair out of place moment.
It
And
was.
I was not here for it. I
And
was
talk
not here
about
for
some, oh, you good? Tell Jen I said hi. Boy!
it. I said hi. And then but really, and then you want to get all upset because she was like, I found the solution. It's all worked out. It could have been life or death, and I need you to understand that I myself am going through some things. Not the fact that she had recruited her brother and made him not talk to him at all. Like I never
Right,
had to talk.
declining his phone call.
Decline his call. She basically said, Jordan, it's you and me. We came in this world together. You will not choose him over me. Not at this moment. You're not
Those are the
doing that.
facts. Yeah, and I was like, Jordan, how you be like, oh, don't put me in the middle, sir? That is
So,
your
but
twin.
that's your
There is no
twin.
middle. There is no middle.
There's no middle. You ride with the person who came in this world with you. You do not.
Facts.
You do not.
Facts.
Even if it's against your father, your mother, whomever, you ride with the person who came into this world with you, unless she's doing harm to herself. And in that moment, she was not. So you ride. You ride with her as to what that is. But yeah, he raised his voice as if he was talking to somebody else. Now, here's the funny part, because there's these tweets and all of this stuff on Twitter and all this other stuff that's going on social media. Spencer has never raised his voice to a woman. He's never been like Jordan and Billy and
That
blah blah
is
blah.
not entirely correct.
That is not entirely clear because
He
that's
raised his voice at Layla. He
hey,
raised his voice at his mother.
he's raised his voice at Coop, but that's a whole nother
At
issue.
Coop, yeah, he's
That's
raised
a whole
his
nother
voice
issue.
quite a lot,
Yeah,
actually.
quite a lot. But they did not anticipate Spelivia having that type of conversation. And there were some certain people on Twitter who've been waiting for this angst. I have been waiting for this angst from the very beginning. I'm going to shout
Nine,
out
I'm
her name.
so happy you got your angst.
Yes. I am so happy. But I'm also going to shout out Haley and Night Night.
Hey, Haley.
And we have been wanting this angst, and it came hard. And when people were like, "Oh, but we're gonna talk about what happened at the end." I'm telling you this now; these are crumbs. They are laying down the crumbs for what's gonna happen. That's gonna tear your hearts out. So y'all better
Right,
get ready. Y'all better get ready.
right.
But speaking of hearts being torn out, Spencer James, I just want to know, when did you think it was okay to yell at her? I just want to know. I really want to know. I'm trying
Yeah,
to figure it out.
yeah. I was the live defender and me came out real quick when I saw that scene.
I was like, snatch his life, Liv, because at that moment she wanted to apologize because of his experience that he was up there talking about. But I'm like, no, no, no. I was like, stand your ground, Liv,
It's so
because
funny.
we trying
Well,
it
which
right
is
now.
funny too, because to be fair, I'm gonna try to be unbiased for 2 seconds here.
You
To
be,
be
I'm
fair,
not.
she when she originally called him, she was just like, I want to cancel on our snack break because
Right.
I gotta go deal with this thing with Jen. Obviously, he hung up before she got a chance to say that. Um, but when they finally did talk on the phone the second time, she was just like, "Oh, I thought you looked forward to our snack break." I'm like, "Liv, you was about to leave anyway."
See, but you know what? She had the girl as girlfriend had the right of way at that moment. She
But
was
listen,
right.
listen. I agree. As a live stand, I was just like, girl, you need backup. You need us
I
to
will
pull
stick
up.
beside her always. But yeah,
I'm
she
gonna sit
was,
beside her. She
but
can
she
do no
was not going to
wrong.
be there and
No,
not
she
available.
she did, she can do wrong. Liv can do wrong,
Yeah,
but she
and
was not in the wrong in this end.
yeah. But she at that time she was going to like not be available for snack babes, but he never allowed her to even say what was next coming out of her mouth. So we don't even know if she was going to ask for his assistant because he just instantly hung up on her.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
at that point she was like, "What is going on?" And I'm not here for it. We're not doing this right now. And so
Yeah.
yeah,
So it was interesting that their initial reactions were to jump jump through all of the communication that they've learned and not communicate. In Liv's instance, it was literally hanging up on him. In
and
his
being petty.
instance, it was or no, sorry, ignoring his calls. In his instance, it was literally hanging up on her and sort of cutting her off. But by the end of it, obviously he got Jordan's help. He set up a nice little
Before
picnic
we
or
go
something in the
there,
back. Huh.
before we go there, can we talk a little bit about some things that's still related to this story? Because
What?
she comes back home angry. Jordan
Yeah, she
comes
does.
back
Oh
home.
yeah, and people like were rolling. They did not care. I was shocked. People were like, whatever,
She wrote like she just rolled upstairs angry. Jordan's like she had a fight. She had a fight with Spencer, big fight with
and
Spencer.
people rolled their eyes. They were like, oh, whatever.
Whatever. My issue at hand was not the people rolling their eyes. My issue at hand was with the writers. I said this would have been the perfect time to have Mama Laura go check on Liv and see if she was okay. But of course, I wasn't
Mama
really.
Laura was tired.
She was tired. I know that, but I'm talking about the writers like give that extra oomph, but they didn't. But I'm accepting
Yeah,
that. But Mama Laura was tired, and she was like, "Okay, they had a fight. It's okay."
yeah. I think it's really interesting because their fight is hitting the audience, and they themselves acknowledge that this has been their first fight ever. So I'm surprised that it was such a blasé moment for everybody around them.
Yeah, it's just shocking to me.
Yeah, because they recognized in the show we've never fought before. The audience recognized this as a big deal, and I think it's just like when they got together. People around them are like, okay, like
Okay,
there's no. It's just very interesting,
it was just like, oh
interesting choice.
yeah, but back Jordan himself, as he was the writer for her throughout the day, answered
Right.
Spencer's message.
Answers Spencer's message, gets her to the beach house where Spencer has very lovingly prepared a. After his meditation, by the way, after his Zen meditation with JJ, uh, prepared a nice little sort of backyard picnic, candlelight dinner situation, uh, and apologized. And they apologized to each other. And, he again talked about just the need for balance. And she, was understanding and saying, and this was really interesting from her too. I thought I prepared myself for being the girlfriend of a D1 athlete, and they need to do a little bit more prep work, was basically what she ended saying there.
which was true because she thought she prepared herself in the fact that her dad and her brother has been attached to football and she knows how what the sacrifices are, but she herself
Right.
have not been, because her being Asher's girlfriend was a joke. When he was a
Right.
football player, but to be
Right.
someone now who's in college D1 is a more stakes and more
Yeah.
stress. And she herself realized that she has not been truly prepared to what that truly looks like for her, as a
Exactly.
girlfriend. Which I'm gonna say this, writers, will be a very good time for you to connect her to Mama Laura, since Mama Laura has been one.
I agree. I agree. I
It connect the two of them. Her mom's already had those experiences. Just
uh,
so you know.
I'm with you on that. But yes, so they apologize um, to each other. Liv went immediately to make up sex, um,
They had a
and
yeah, they had a very into. It was a night. I like the kiss and the yeah. We get to have makeup sex and stuff.
yeah, yeah, it was a nice little kiss moment, and a nice little coming together after them both recognizing again that it was their first fight, and they left that episode on a really really good night, a good note after their first fight, and they really communicated at the end, which I loved and enjoyed. And can we talk about how they're always coordinated? Their outfits are always low key matching because they were walking at the end there, and it was like y'all are wearing the same colors.
It was so coordinated. It's also, I said to Lexi, is that's the outfit that Sam had on during Daniel's birthday little thing that was on TikTok, Instagram, and everywhere else in the world that they posted. Uh but they are always dressing alike. You know what I didn't like at the end of that scene before they walked off together hand in hand?
What?
So I said, I think it was either today or sometime or yesterday or something. I said I miss Spelivia hugs. I need a Spelivia hug. It was yesterday.
Oh yeah, that would have been cute.
And they cut that hug so weird because it
Yeah,
started.
they did. I feel yeah, that was an interesting direction choice
It
by
was
the
very
director to have like
interesting.
a wide shot.
Yes, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Like
It was like
that's
a wide and side shot thing.
yes. It was weird. It was really weird on how that was cut, and I was like, "That's not what I wanted." But it went along with towards the end of them holding hands, but they just that part of it was like cut weird for me. Other than that, I truly liked the ending of that, and also Spencer telling his coach he's like going to be looking at tape and film and getting the balance that he needs and
Yeah.
be ready and prepared.
And taking a different approach. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I
taking
do
that
think
different approach.
we very often, whenever Spencer has been presented with the limited challenges he has been with football, it's immediately been, like I said, these montages in the weight room. So to see him talk about, we haven't got him really talking about film. And I think I mentioned this too, by the way, but we haven't even really gotten him mentioning film since season one.
Really, we didn't. We really also didn't get him mentioning the fact of him actually being a student athlete because he was at the very beginning he was trying to find his class. And remember
Right.
he was like running all over the place and ended up in the wrong class. That has
Right.
happened to everybody, not even a student athlete. So I was cracking up laughing. So there's some
Yeah.
things that we haven't seen
It
since.
happened to Simone on All American Homecoming.
Yeah, things we
Oh wait,
haven't.
no, she didn't go to the wrong cast. Just kidding. She was late. She was
He
late.
was late, but it was things that we haven't seen since season one from Spencer is now popping up.
Yeah. Of
And
just being the fish out of water,
yeah,
in a sense.
and he has
Yeah.
to be the salmon, and that's as JJ said, you have to be the salmon that's going up the
Swimming
stream,
with the stream, not against. Yeah.
not against it. And then Spencer said, eventually I'm gonna be the bear. It's like, you know
Exactly.
what? Just be the salmon for a moment. He tried to help you. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So good episode. And that takes us to predictions. Thanks for listening to Film Study and All American Podcast. Stay tuned for our predictions.